Hi, my name is Lucas Weir and my passion project is on turtles. My ungoogleable question is, what are some of the jobs that include working with turtles every day and which one would best suit my interests and skills? To find my dream job, I went out and met some really amazing people who work with turtles every day. My first stop was at Melbourne Zoo, where I was lucky enough to get up close and personal with a giant tortoise called Little John and his keeper Adam.
So their shell is basically made up of bone and skin. So he's got bony plates here, so this is kind of like his backbone, and then he's got a layer of scaly skin that goes over the top. I don't know if you know, but scales is made out of the same substance inside your fingernail and inside your hair. So it's called keratin, so that makes up a reptile's scales, just like it makes up our fingernail. If you want, you can have a feel of his front leg there. If you want to reach under as well, you can just stretch under the neck. Do you know the difference between a turtle and a tortoise?
Yep, tortoises are on land, turtles are in the water.
Exactly right.
Wow, those giant tortoises are incredible, and I was so lucky to be able to do that. A zookeeper would be a pretty cool job. Next I met an ecologist and herpetologist, Dr. Andrew Hamer, from the Royal Botanic Gardens. I went with him and a team of volunteers on an earthwatch expedition, studying turtles in the urban environment. Dr. Hamer sets traps, then with the help of volunteers on this earthwatch expedition, brings them in to see what has been attracted by the bait. Sometimes it's turtles, but we also caught a couple of yabbies. Here is a turtle we caught at a lake in Brighton. The information about the turtles helps Dr. Hamer understand the health of the turtles and their environment. Dr. Hamer checks to see if it is a male or female by looking at the curve of the bottom of its shell and the shape of the spot where its tail sticks out. This one is a male. He then checks the shell or carapace for damage and counts the number of scutes or sections on its shell. All this information is recorded by the volunteers and used for Dr. Hamer's research. Dr. Hamer then tagged the turtle by drilling a little nick in its carapace, so he knows which turtle it is if it is ever trapped again. I really enjoyed that. It was so interesting to meet Dr. Hamer and find out what a scientist does in the field. My final passion project experience was meeting several experts at the Melbourne Museum. Dr. Eric Fitzgerald is the head of paleontology, and he took me into the fossil collection and storeroom where I learned a whole lot about turtle evolution.
Dinosaur-sized. These are the horns of a turtle.
What? Turtles have horns?
Once they did.
Oh.
These are about 50,000 years old, not that long ago, from Queensland. And these are the horns of an extinct kind of turtle, which is a completely extinct group. And it's an animal called Maiolania. And not only horns, it also had a club on its tail, like a bommy knocker.
Wow. That would hurt.
It had a club on its tail and horns. And it was a big herbivore and had all this protection, all these protective arms and armour, if you like, to protect it from predators.
Because it would be pretty nippy.
So this is, if you think about turtles and tortoises and their shells today, and do you have pet turtles?
I'm going to have two soon.
Okay, so you know about their shells.
Yeah.
And their plastron underneath the
Yes.
shell and on their belly.
Yeah.
Well, these are extreme turtles.
Okay.
So imagine if a turtle had even more armour, this is what they look like. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
That's impossible.
No, it is possible. It is possible.
Yeah,
They're just not alive today.
Yeah.
So you just think of that. Next time you think of turtles and even giant tortoises, well, they're nothing. In the past, there were some really wild, extreme turtles, like Myelania, and they lived right here in Australia. Only a few thousand years old as well.
So when did turtles first evolve?
Turtles first evolved about 200 to 250 million years ago. And turtles evolved at about the same time that dinosaurs first appeared, and also at the same time that the first mammals, our ancestors, evolved. So turtles go way, way, way back.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. So how old is the oldest turtle fossil?
The oldest turtle fossil that I know of is about 200 million years old.
Wow.
And it's a fossil from Germany. And it has a scientific name which is Proganochelys.
How big were prehistoric turtles?
Some of them got very, very big. Some, like this Myelania, the horned turtle, which used to live in Australia about 50,000 years ago, they were probably about 2 metres long. And so some of them got to the size of a family car. So, big. Bigger than any living turtle.
Yeah, wow. Have they changed much to become modern turtle species?
That's a really interesting question. If we look at those earliest fossil turtles, like Proganochelys that I mentioned before, they already have a shell on the top of the body and also bony plates underneath the body. And they were probably also able to pull their head back into the shell to avoid predators.
Oh.
So they've had that same sort of body shape and plan for tens of millions of years.
I'm interested in becoming a herpetologist, but paleontology is very interesting. How did you get to be in this job? Like, what did you have to study?
Well, I studied hard at school and tried to get the best marks that I could for all my subjects. And then I went to university and I studied to become a scientist. And I studied zoology or biology and also geology or earth science subjects. So you learn all about the earth and also animals. And then from there, you have to go on and do even more study. So you can end up studying for more than 5 years to learn to be a scientist and then to specialise as a paleontologist or a zoologist.
Okay, thank you so much for letting us interview you today. It's been great meeting you and seeing all these awesome fossils.
Absolute pleasure. Good to meet you, Lucas, and all the best and enjoy the rest of your tour.
Thank you so much. Next, I headed over to the museum's research laboratories to speak to some of the scientists working on modern species. So, what education did you have to go through to get to where you are now?
A long education. So I've gone through primary school, high school at U, and when I went to university, I did a Bachelor of Science at Melbourne University, and then I did an honours year where I worked on a project, and I worked on a project on some lizards for a year. And then if you really want to be a scientist that can do your own research, you do a PhD. So a few years ago, or a year and a half ago now, I finished my PhD as well. So I did a project on some frogs in Victoria. So that takes at least 3 years, probably more.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
So, is there anything you would recommend I studied or did to work in this field?
Well, just always keep being involved in science. So it's lots of science, really, and what you did with your Earthwatch thing is really good. Like, get involved in any kind of volunteering opportunities you can to work with. Yeah. So just keep, science is really the key in biology. That's where you're heading. Yeah.
Thank you. Has being a herpetologist changed your view over animals or reptiles placed in this world?
Oh yes, I've learnt a lot. Yeah, you realise, I mean, when I first started I just was interested in animals in general, but then as I've gone further and further along, because I've specialised more in reptiles and amphibians, I've learnt a lot more about how important they are in understanding the world. So yeah.
I also got to spend some time in the wet collections room. This is where animals are preserved in alcohol for many years. The dry collection room, where I got to see the most amazing turtle shell ever. And finally, the museum's keeper Adam showed me around the live exhibits. Another part of my passion project has been getting my little turtles, Google and Squirt. And I've got to say, getting these guys has been one of my favourite parts of my passion project. So I really think that by being an actual turtle owner, it would let me know a lot more about turtles and therefore increase my chances of getting a good job with turtles. So all these experiences have really increased my love of turtles. But the job that I really want when I grow up would be a job like Andrew Hamer's. I mean, you find out so much information about turtles and then reporting it to other places so then they can develop further knowledge of turtles. I think that this would be an amazing job. Thank you for watching. I've really enjoyed making my passion project, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching it.
That's a tortoise. Dude, that's a tortoise. Yeah, it's not a turtle. It's still a tortoise. A turtle lives in water. A tortoise lives on land. A turtle's not a tortoise. It's not hard to understand. That's a tortoise.